the continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Dorothy Malone as Constance Mackenzie, Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Mia Farrow as Allison Mackenzie, Ryan O'Neill as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Tim O'Connor as Elliot Carson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington.
Constance Mackenzie awakens in Doctor's Hospital to discover that her nightmare is real. Last night, her daughter Allison was critically injured by a hit-run driver.
To be lying down. That sedation shouldn't have worn off for another 2 hours.
Allison.
She's in the intensive care unit. She's not in there.
Just open the door.
I can't do it. Mrs. Carson, she's being taken care of. There's no change in her condition. Now, come on. The night nurse gave me the report on her just 2 minutes ago when I came on duty. Now, you lie down and let the medicine wear off, and by that time, your husband will...
Oh, Elliot, where is he?
No, I just saw him in the
Why isn't he
cafeteria.
here?
He said he'd come.
I have to see Allison.
I told you she's down the hall in the intensive care, and you can't see her, Mrs. Carson. Please.
Connie, wait, stop it.
Allison! Let me see, Mike.
Connie, you can't go in.
Let me through. I just have to see she's alive.
Connie, she's alive. We're doing everything we can.
Oh, please, Mike. Let me see. Just let me look. I just want to know she's there.
Jax, I'm John Fowler, the district attorney. I'd like to talk to your daughter.
Yes, Mr. Fowler. Come this way. Rita. Rita. Rita, this is Mr. Fowler. This is my daughter, Rita.
Hello, Rita.
Hello. You want some coffee, honey?
Oh, no, thanks, Mom.
Sit down and have some coffee.
Thank you. Thank you. I'd like you to stay, Mrs. Jax. I think your daughter would prefer that. Appreciate your cooperation, Rita.
Why you want some coffee, honey? You didn't eat any breakfast.
No, Mom.
Let's try to make this as informal and easy as possible. Suppose you start with telling me when you met Joe Chernock and just go on from there.
Well, I met Joe a long time ago. We went to school together.
Did you and Joe know the Harrington boys then?
Yes, I went to school with Norman, too. I just didn't go around with his crowd.
Now, you went with Joe Chernock's crowd?
Yes.
I understand you told Sergeant Goddard that you dated Joe Chernock. Were you his girlfriend?
Until he went to the honor farm.
And when did you start to go with Norman?
Well, I'd gone with Norman for a while before Joe came back to town.
Very good coffee, Mrs. Jacks. When was that?
I don't remember exactly. I'd just gotten my job at a drugstore. I think it was a few days before the first big storm. And Joe kept calling me and bothering me. And he'd come into the drugstore, and I don't know, he just kept telling me that I was his girlfriend. And I said no, that I was sorry and I didn't want to go with him anymore. He just wouldn't leave me alone, and
More coffee, Mr. Fowler?
No, thank you. Did you tell Joe that the reason you didn't want to go with him was that you were going with Norman now?
Well, yes, he knew.
And yet he still considered you his girlfriend? He was still in love with you?
Joe Chernock in love?
You knew your daughter had dated him before, Mrs. Jacks. You must have approved of it at the time.
Well, no, she tried to stop me. I just wouldn't listen. I mean, I wasn't smart enough. I couldn't believe how bad he was. And then I found out that she was right.
Well, how was that?
Well, one night, Joe and Earl tried to make me go with them. They tried to force me to get into Joe's car. And they would have, except that Mr. Carson saw what they were doing and stopped them.
Mr. Carson?
Elliot Carson.
Do you know if Mr. Carson ever reported such an incident?
Well, no, he wanted to, but I wouldn't let him because I was afraid it'd cause trouble.
Did Rita tell you about this, Mrs. Jacks?
No, Elliot Carson did.
And you didn't think it was serious enough to report it to the police?
I didn't think it would do any good. I just thought it would cause more trouble.
I see. Rita, did you tell Norman what Joe had tried to do?
No, I didn't tell him because I didn't want him to know about me and Joe. And I was afraid he'd get mixed up with Joe. Joe was a mean, rough kid.
And did Joe keep trying to bother you?
Sort of.
And you never told your mother or Norman about it?
No.
I understand that Joe and Norman had a fight. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
You know why they fought?
Joe never needed a reason. Norman's a nice, clean kid. That's all the reason Joe needed.
I asked you the question, Rita.
Well, I don't know. I wasn't there when they fought.
But if Joe was a mean, rough guy, Norman must have taken quite a beating, is that right?
Yes.
And his brother would have found out about it. He must have asked why they fought. Did Rodney ever ask you about it, Rita?
Well, not exactly. But I told Rod about Joe and me. And we both wanted to keep Norman out of his way.
You both wanted to protect Norman.
Well, of course.
And there was nothing you could do, so that left it up to Rodney to do something about Joe Chernock. Well, thank you, Rita. You've been very helpful. We'll want to have you available for the trial. Both of you. May I? Just one other point of confirmation, Rita. You told Sergeant Goddard that you hadn't seen Joe Chernock for a couple of weeks before he died. That is correct, isn't it?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Well, thank you, Rita. Mrs. Jacks, you'll be hearing from us.
Well, I guess it's official now. Joe wasn't here that day.
Morning, Miss Nolan.
Good morning.
Any messages?
Yes, they're on your desk, Mr. Cord, and Mr. Harrington is waiting in Mr. Dowell's office. He's been there quite a while.
Oh, Mr. Dow should be here shortly. Would you buzz me when he gets in?
Surely.
Hello, Stephen. Good morning, Mr. Harrington. There seems to be something wrong with Ted's lighter. Do you have a match?
Yes, I do.
I don't know what I do with them. They just seem to vanish on me. I've lost every lighter I ever had, too.
Well, here, keep these.
Thank you. Do you have any idea where Ted is?
Well, no. Did he know you were coming in?
No, but I thought I should see him right away about what we discussed yesterday.
The change of venue.
I don't want this trial held in Peyton Place, Stephen. White River, Hastings, Gladstone, any place but here. And I want Ted to make the arrangements as soon as possible.
Well, I know Mr. Dowell considered the possibility, but I think he felt there were several reasons why it might not be a good idea.
I think I know what's best for my own son, Stephen.
I'm sure you do, sir, but... Well, this is something you really ought to discuss with Mr. Dowell. He should be right in, if you'll excuse me.
Just a minute. You've had some background in criminal law, I believe. When I knew you were going to be working with Ted on this case, I looked into your career to date. You've done quite well.
Thank you.
You were with Wainwright and Kennedy when they handled the Murdoch case, I believe.
That's right.
And they had that case changed, didn't they?
Well, yes, but there were no alternatives in that case. The whole city was out for blood.
And you don't think there's any of that feeling in the wind here?
I think you may be selling the town a little short, Mr. Harrington.
Short? Everyone I bump into looks at me as if I had the plague. And if I have that kind of an effect on the people here, what chance does my son have of being acquitted?
He says he's innocent.
And I believe him. But let's be practical.
I'd really prefer it if you discussed it with Mr. Dowell.
I will. But just tell me why it's so terribly wrong to have Rodney's case heard somewhere else.
I didn't mean to imply it was wrong, but I do tend to agree with Mr. Dowell that it's not a good idea.
Oh, come on, Stephen. Let's not split hairs. Surely I should be able to get a straight answer out of this office.
All right. Let's hypothesize for a minute. If we make a motion for a change of venue, then it becomes part of the open court record. Everyone will know about it. But if that motion is denied and we're forced to remain here, what do you think the attitude will be about our not trusting the citizens of Peyton Place to give Rodney a fair deal?
I see. I don't mean to be staring at you, but I suddenly got a picture of you in short pants and scuffed knees, having to reprimand you for interrupting my afternoon nap with that horn you used to blow. Do you still play?
No. When I was a sophomore in college, I went through 4 different roommates. I finally got the message.
You've come a long way, Stephen. I'm surprised I don't remember more about you. How long did your mother work for us? 10 years?
Almost.
And we lived in the same house all that time together. Well, maybe it's not so amazing after all. I never really got to know my own boys. Now tell me, if we make a motion for change of venue, how good are the chances that it'll be granted?
I don't know. The court would have to be convinced that there were factors involved that would make a fair trial impossible. We'd have to make charges that could antagonize everyone in town.
Well, if that's what it takes, we'll make them. And if it means dragging my name through the mud again, we'll do that, too. But let's get this trial moved out of Peyton Place. Now, look, Stephen, I don't mean to say that the people here won't try to be fair. But it's hardly realistic to expect them to be impartial. I wish I could tell you what it's like to know that your mistakes could cost the life of someone you love.
I think you're coming back to face this town when your son needed you may make up for a lot of those mistakes. I'm sure I'm not the only one who considers it a very brave action.
Well, thank you, Stephen. But what people think about me doesn't matter anymore. All I care about is getting Rodney out of this.